to Inner Peace, Better Health, where we explore the beauty that rises from life's hardest moments. I'm your host, Shreya. Today's guest, Bethany Shelton, is a spiritual mentor and the radiant soul behind Be Limitless Now. After the heartbreaking loss of her only child, Bethany chose not just to heal, but to transform. She turned her pain into a portal, guiding others from grief to growth, from breakdown to breakthrough. This conversation isn't just about surviving grief, it's about unlocking the limitless power that lies within it. So, welcome, Bethany. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I am just, this is going to be an amazing conversation.
Yes, yes, and thank you for all your kind words. And Bethany, your journey began with unimaginable loss. So, in those earliest days, what did healing look like, if even it felt possible at all?
Well, great question. Great question. For me, when back in 2020, my only child crossed over and became energy spirited. So in that first year, I was absolutely in the trenches. I did not know how I was going to laugh again, how I was going to go on and live in a world and be productive, nor did I, at that time, I didn't have any desire. My joy at that time, I thought, was gone. I was unable to communicate, to feeling, our world had got flipped upside down. So when the day of his burial, I had got down on my knees and I asked God, I need some kind of sign, please, please. Well, I wasn't expecting what came. As I'm walking back from the burial site, and my best friend of 36 years is beside me. And as we're walking back to the car, it was a cloudy day. And in that moment, my best friend tapped me on the arm and she said, look, well, in that moment, the clouds separated and a rainbow popped through. And in that moment, I was like, there's my sign. Oh my gosh. And I just completely fell apart. I was just like, oh, I can't, but it felt so good to get that sign. But here's where it starts to get pretty cool. So my son was still is a big nerd. He loved to read, he loved to study, and he absolutely loved quantum physics, quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement, mythology, and energy, frequency, and vibration. Well, all this information started to flood to me after the first year of his passing. And I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. So I started to like kind of get excited because I started to study NDEs, near death experience, energy, frequency. And so one day I was laying on my couch and I had just been studying and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go get in the shower. So I went and go get in the shower. And when I did, pulled back the shower curtain and there was a quarter inside of my shower. And I was like, well, I don't know about you. I don't shower with with coins. I don't have pockets to have coins. So this was a aha kind of moment. Well, I looked at it and it had my son's death year, 2020. So I set it to the side and I didn't think anything, about it. Well, 2 days later, I'm getting out of my bed and as I always do, making my bed, tidying up. Well, that night I go to go get inside the bed and guess what I find? I find coins. And I was like, well, this is weird. What is this? So
Yes,
the next morning, I get up out of the bed and guess what I find?
the
Coins.
coins.
And I was like, okay. So I tried to, in my human thinking mind, I was trying to, give excuses. Oh, this can't be, this isn't it. Well, here's where it really got fun. So I'm vacuuming my floor one day and I vacuumed the whole living room floor and I go I go put the vacuum up and I come back and I look down on my freshly vacuumed floors. And what do I find? Coins.
Coins.
And I was like, what in the? And so I picked up this coin and I looked and it had my son's birth year on it. Well, there had been too many
Mm,
coincidences, which aren't really coincidences,
mm.
and so I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I am finding these coins everywhere. She said, Oh my God, Bethany, we are too. And I was like, What? And she said, I think Kevin's trying to communicate with us.
Yes.
Well, in that moment, I got so excited. So I ran outside and was out on my deck and I said, Kevin, that's my son's name, Kevin. I said, Kevin, if this is you, man, if you're trying to communicate with me, can you show up for me like a bluebird or a red bird? The very next day, everywhere I turned, there was a blue jay or a cardinal. Everywhere I turned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid is communicating with me. Oh my gosh. So I started to sense and feel my frequency was starting to shift. From that moment forward, I would wake up in the frequency of oh my gosh, what's going to happen today? How fun is this? What is he going to do? And so when I did that, more communications came through because this is how Kevin brought it to me. He was like, Mom, when I was alive and on the physical plane, like I'm talking to you, we operated pretty much on the same frequency level, same energetic signature. He said, but Mom, when I crossed over and went back to spirit and energy, I rose in frequency. He said, but Mom, you dropped in frequency because you were in blame, shame, grief, hurt, pain, less than, anger, rage. He said, Mom, do you see how hard it is for us to communicate when you operate in these lower aspects? He's like, if you're operating in lower aspects, you can't communicate or get a connection with higher. He said, Mom, that's just not a thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then when he brought it to me like that, I started to really get excited. And that's when communications and a connection came through so loud and so clear that I now know that separation is just an illusion. Death is just an illusion, that we can communicate and have communications with not only our spirit teams, but with our crossed over ancestral lines. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And that moment must have been very fragile and profound. But the way you narrated it, it's so beautiful to listen.
I
And
know. And so it just at first it just blew my mind because here's the thing. We weren't taught about this. We
yes,
weren't
yes,
taught.
yes,
We were taught to figure it out, be a good human,
mm,
and operate on pain looping, storytelling, stay in the
yes,
mind, stay in the ego mind. Most folks do, and figure it out. But that is not it. If to do something different, you got to experience something different to have a
yes.
different outcome. So yeah, that was like one of the biggest show-stopping, groundbreaking transformation that I got from my child.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's so amazing. And you also speak of alchemizing pain into purpose. How did you begin that process, and what did it require you to let go of that?
Okay, great question. So when I found myself just stuck in pain, hurt, grief, at the time, I did not have the awareness that I was choosing these thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so, how I help not only myself, but my clients, we take a step back and we gain awareness of what it is we are thinking and choosing. Now, the mental chatter, the mental mindset is if you don't have that thing in check and you just allow your mind to run free and do whatever it wants, woo, and have no control of it, Well, you are now a victim of your reality because
Yes.
you have not had the power or the desire to get this thing under control.
Yes.
So the pain looping, the storytelling, all become is started in here. So once we gain awareness of what it is we're creating, because not only is this a frequency, this is also an antenna that throws out into the quantum field. And here's where the change begins. We shut this off through a bunch of exercises that we do, and then I get you into your heart. Drop out of the mind and get into your heart. Where your heart is a frequency in its own. It is not just an organ pumping blood through our bodies. This is a frequency of vibration in itself. So when you drop into that and you have control of the mind, you are now a different being. You are now a different human that is operating not out of programming, but out of the state of awareness. So therefore, we can alchemize, we can figure out, now we have choice. We are no longer a victim to our creation or reality. We have choice in what we would like to choose to experience from that point forward.
Yes. Yes. And letting go of who we thought we had, uh, is such a courageous act also. So it's just beautiful. And also, what role does self compassion play in this information transformation? Sorry.
Do what? What was it? Repeat that.
Yes, yes. So, what role does that self compassion play in this transformation?
Oh, well, I'm going to tell you what, you know, your heart is your powerhouse. So gaining awareness of all of the lower frequencies that you are operating on, what are we choosing to think and feel? And we really transform that into heart space. And so, yeah, I think I understood that question. I'm not for sure if I really answered that really well for you, but yeah.
Okay. But whatever you have said and your information is very, very helpful. I think I, my listeners also find that very helpful. And also, let's talk about Be Limitless Now. So, Be Limitless Now empowers others through heart presence and divine remembrance. How do you help people shift from mental noise into soul awareness?
Here's the great thing, I I work with my spirit team. I have direct communications with the unseen and unknown and unheard. So I gather my frequency and awareness through them on a lot of things. So Be Limitless Now, what we do, I operate and help facilitate clearings, vibrations, and frequency through your heart, shutting off the mind. And I get people to really understand what it is we are choosing, what we are choosing to operate from. Are we doing it out of programming? This is one of the craziest things that my team's brought to me. So, how many of us have, as a young child, as an infant, and a young adult, had family members that came over? For me, I had a 6 month old older cousin, and she would always come over and spend the weekends and the summers with me. And what we would do when she came over is that we would turn on a vision, the TV, telling you a vision. We would turn in and with the frequency dial to get the channel, and then we would see what program we wanted to watch, and we would turn that on. Well, right there, the TV is telling you a vision through audio and visual. Now, we would watch our programming on repeat, like, The Lion King. The Lion King is a program that taught me and my child grief, less than, blame, shame, hurt, not enough. Because when Simba lost his dad, right? Mufasa, and he was thrown into grief. And so, because Simba wasn't on the programming with Scar being king, he was pushed out into the Badlands. He was pushed out to figure it out, blame, shame, guilt, less than, not enough, worry, fear, anxiety, anger. And I found out that all Disney, Pixar, and holiday movies all teach us how to stay in lower aspects of blame, shame, grief, less than, not enough, worry, fear, anxiety through repetition, repetition. I have a whole list here of all Disney programs such as Frozen, Bambi, Finding Nemo, Dumbo, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Rudolph, The Grinch, A Christmas Carol, Home Alone, Frosty the Snowman, Polar Express, and I can go on and on and on. Now, as a small child, we were taught to sit and watch these through visual and audio on repetition, and that taught us how to stay locked, blocked, and stopped in all lower frequencies. They didn't teach us how to connect with the unseen, unknown, unheard. They didn't teach us about energy and vibration and quantum mechanics and quantum physics and quantum entanglement. They, they just taught us that stay locked, blocked, and stop, and that's just how life's supposed to be. And that's not it. That's not it at all. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Yes.
So if we want to see the change, we first must gain the awareness and be that change that we look to see.
Yes.
Where attention goes, energy flows. So in the frequency and vibration realm, like attracts like. So if you are operating in all of these lower aspects, well, guess what? You're attracting more of that low frequency vibration too.
Yes.
But gaining the awareness, that you're choosing that is so big. And we weren't taught that. We were
Yes.
just taught to figure it out. It'll, you'll do better next time. Be a good human. Go to work. Stay on the wheel of karma.
Yes.
We weren't taught how to read energy and choose differently. So that's what I bring with my clients with Be Limitless Now. We totally take a look at your frequency, your energy. We do our vibrations. I walk you through a bunch of sound healings. Then we take a look at past life energies. Is this something that you've carried from your ancestral lineages in all space, place, time, dimension, reality, parallel reality, universe, multiverse, omniverse? We'll take a look at that. And if you are finding yourself stuck and just always in the lower vibrations, we'll go in and we will energetically clear with clearings to get that energy out. Because if you are operating with your cup already full and you're still trying to put energy and stuff into your cup, well, you're only making a mess until we extract what is no longer beneficial and stuff that you no longer wish to create. So that's what Be Limitless is.
And that shift from hate to hurt, it's beautiful. And the way you explained with the Disney movies is so accessible and so beautiful. It's very nice.
Well, good. I'm so glad that you enjoyed that. I hope your listeners enjoyed it just as much as, when this information came to me from my spirit team, it blew me out of the water. I was like, what? I mean, a television? I just thought this was something that, when I was a small child, that's all we had TVs in our home.
Yes.
That's all I knew to go sit down and get programmed pretty much is what we're doing. They're telling us what we ought to think, feel, and experience.
Yes.
Instead of being the creator of our reality and choosing what it is we align to and would enjoy experiencing, when we're operating on only program, we are now a victim of our reality. And you know what, girl? We are some powerful, powerful beings. We are God's source creator, runs to us and through us, and tapping into that frequency, that knowledge, that wisdom is where you become a powerful being and almost unstoppable.
Yes, that's really a mind-blowing fact, and thank you for sharing that with us. And you walk between the seen and unseen. How has your connection to the spiritual realm helped you progress grief and guide others through theirs?
Well, that was something like I spoke before, until till my only child crossed over and became back to energy, I had no idea that this was even a thing. I didn't have, I had no knowledge of it. Well, when, and I can go on about how much communication I have with this realm. It is absolutely a powerhouse of my spirit team and my son coming through on a daily, hourly, moment by moment, each now moment through synchronicity, signs, and messages. And, when I let go of the belief system that this wasn't possible and started to open myself up, now I have direct telepathic communications with the unseen, unknown, unheard. And it has absolutely transformed every aspect of my life. And I now work, if you would have told me this is what I would be doing in 2020 when I buried my son, I would have looked at you and I'd have said, you lost your day. You lost your mind. There's no way. But
Yes, yes,
through this growth and this transformation and gaining these awarenesses, my life has absolutely transformed in the most beautiful way. And what better way to have a coach or a someone to help you assist you than somebody that has experience.
yes,
I don't have, all of the what do you call it? The credentials. I didn't do all I'm coming to you with experience with
yes,
what has absolutely been an asset into my life. And this is what I know to be true for me. And I bring those awarenesses to and through you and work with not only my teams, but my teams work with your teams. And so we start to pull stuff that is no longer serving you out of your energetic field. Because here's another awareness that we weren't taught. Here's another one. Our energy field, our aura, we have an electromagnetic field that extends out 6 feet in front of us in 360 degrees. Now, when you go to the grocery store and you're passing all of these beings, and guess what? Their energy field is meeting your energy field before they even come in contact with you. Well, guess what? If you are not aware of your being, your now moment, your field, your frequency of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, when you go to that grocery store and you're interacting with all these beings, you will not gain awareness if a thought form, an energetic, breach comes into your field because you're just not aware. You're just thinking, well, I need to do this. And you're just allowing your mind to run rampant. You're not aware of any other thing but this. And
yes,
there is so much more in your field, in your aura that takes place.
yes, yes. And this is really a thing that people often look for the credentials and all the uh theories parts, I think. But it's very important to have someone who is experienced and have practical knowledge in it, because they knows much more than what we are really taught in any
Yeah.
kind of field.
You know,
So
for for my personal belief, if I have a choice, either someone that's read a bunch of books and they've
yes.
been taught how to handle something,
Hmm.
or if I have a choice between a book knowledge or experience, I'm going to always take the experience because they have hindsight and they have the thought, feeling, and emotion that they've already experienced it. And I can learn from somebody that has experienced it already instead of somebody that just read a book and said it's you ought to do this. No, I want to speak to the person that's already been through it, what's been their biggest obstacles, and I can ask questions from a heart-based information. You know what I mean? Instead of
Yes.
somebody that's just read a book that's never experienced any
No.
of it. But yeah.
And so, I also have a question that grief often changes that identity. Who have you become because of this journey, and what would your child say about who you are now?
Yes, 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 yes. I love that question. Well, this grief has absolutely this experience, what would have normally broke me, absolutely
Mhm.
transformed me. You
Yes.
know, I this didn't happen to me. This happened for me.
Mm.
Where I have totally taken a different road, a different choice to experience, not only because this was the energetics of it
Mm.
was so eye catching, but what better way to honor my child than to show him and be the best human, the best mother, and to absolutely transform myself for for the better, to feel the excitement, the love, the joy, the connection, the gratefulness, and compassion. All of those higher vibratory rates of energy, then absolutely going to the other, where grief, blame, shame, that is constricting and constricting on yourself. How would I benefit not only myself but my child by living in a life of just hurt and just pain, just in absolute misery, when I can do something so different and be able to connect with him because he's operating in a high frequency. And if I go to the higher frequency, well, oh my gosh, look what happens. I'm communicating not only with him, but with the universe, with God's creations. Why would I not do that? That makes a lot more sense to me.
Mm.
But and it doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? This is not just something that goes, oh,
Mm.
okay.
Mm.
It takes it takes awareness, redirection. It takes, what do I choose to feel? Am I choosing to stay stuck off the block? Or am I choosing a different frequency? And that's the one thing, like I told you before, that's what Be Limitless Now does. We go in and we not only look at the energy, but we look at the thought form, the frequency, the pain looping, the storytelling. And this can also be passed down from lineages, from your ancestors. And this is what you were taught as a child to do, to run this program of loss, separation. Well, that's the lie. That's the illusion.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And there is such a strength of letting your love for them and becoming the mission. And just to have said that, yes, you are a wonderful mother. We also believe that.
Ah! Yes, thank you so much. And that's so funny. I want to share a story with you.
Yes.
Mother's Day this year. So Mother's
Okay.
Day this year, I was like, I was having a human moment, because I will miss seeing my son with my eyes. I will miss seeing being able to give my son a hug. I will miss that till the day that I cross over with him. That's
Mm.
just, I do miss that. And I knew in that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was feeling. I said, man, Calvin, I sure need you to show up and show out for me today. And when I said that, it wasn't just 2 minutes later, a bird landed in my frequency, 3 feet into my field. And I wasn't trying to make it wrong. I wasn't trying to make it right, but I knew that that bird was there to share its frequency with me of joy, love, and acceptance. And I just got so excited because that was my gift for Mother's Day.
Yes.
That experience of God's creation sharing its frequency with me. And I just got so excited. And it was such a magical moment.
Yes. Yes. That's really a magical moment. And you are a magical person too. So, so if you have to say something or give a message to my listeners, then what would you say?
The message I would have for your listeners is that you are a divine, beautiful being. You're amazing. You're fantastic. You are just one powerful creator. And once you gain the awareness of that heart, of your heart, you are unstoppable. Let's all come together in the power, in the frequency of love and unity to make a difference and make a change in this world. I love each and every one of you guys. You're amazing. You're fantastic. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your day.
Yes. And also, we love you too, Bethany. And if after this, my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
All right. Great question. Come over to my website, Limitless Now. And the best thing I can give is my time. So book a free 30-minute call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what's keeping you locked, blocked, and stopped, and go from there. I would love to hear and just talk and see how I can be of service. But yeah, that. And then if you have TikTok, I'm on TikTok at Be Limitless Now. So I don't post that very much, but I do hear, past few days I have been doing some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, come over and just, let's have a conversation.
Yes. And I will make sure to attach all the links and details below so that my listeners can find them easily and reach out to you easily and meet this magical human being. And with that, we have come to the end of the show. So, my listeners, Bethany Shelton is a living proof that grief doesn't have to be define us. It can refine us. From unspeakable loss, she created a movement of love, light, and limitless truth. So, if you are navigating heartbreak, know this: growth is possible, peace is available, and your soul is ready to know the way to hope. Until next time, stay present, stay open, and keep choosing life one breath at a time.